All right, let's talk about something that drives a lot of us crazy. Why is it that the super expensive 4K dash cam you bought is somehow completely blind right when you need it most? At night, it's just this big, bright flare from your headlights. During the day, maybe it's a super dark, unreadable shadow. It is so infuriating. You paid for crystal clear video, and what you get is this glowing white ghost. So let's get into why this actually happens. It's not a pixel problem. You've got the pixels. The real issue, the thing you're actually missing, is something called dynamic range. Think about it like this. It's how your own eyes can adjust when you walk out of a dark room into the bright sun. It's the camera's ability to see everything, the details in the dark shadows and the details in the bright spots, all at the same time. So dynamic range is what we want. But how do cameras actually get there? Well, this is where all that confusing marketing stuff comes in. You know, WDR, HDR. Let's just cut through all that noise and figure out what actually works. This is probably the easiest way to think about it. WDR, that's the goal. That's the promise of a nice, clear picture. But HDR, that's the engine that actually does the work. Not all engines are built the same. Okay, let's start with what you'll find on a lot of cheaper dash cams. They'll say WDR all over the box. But what they're really giving you is, well, it's a software trick. And it's a pretty flawed one. It's called Digital WDR, like one of those cheap photo filters you'd find on your phone. The camera takes just one kind of lazy picture, and then the software inside just tries to brighten up the dark spots. It's not actually seeing more detail, it's just faking it. And what you get is pretty much what you'd expect from a cheap trick, right? You end up with this grainy, almost sandy-looking image. The details on that license plate, they're not revealed. They're just buried under all this digital junk. It's just a mess. But okay, enough of that. Let's talk about the hero of the story. This isn't a trick. This is a real hardware powerhouse that you find in the best cameras. It's called Multi-Exposure HDR, and this really shows you the difference side by side. Digital WDR, it's a software trick with one lazy shot. Multi-Exposure HDR, that's a hardware engine, taking two pictures at the exact same time for every single frame of video. The result? It's the difference between a grainy mess and a perfectly clear, balanced picture. How in the world does it do that? Think of the camera sensor like a pro photographer. For every single frame, it does two things at once. First, it takes a short exposure shot, kind of like squinting, to see all the detail in those bright headlights without them turning into a white blob. Then, at the exact same time, it takes a long exposure shot, like staring into the shadows, to pull out all the details in the dark parts of the scene. And then the camera's brain just instantly smushes them together into one perfect picture. So what does all that mean in the real world, on the road? The most important information is just gone, lost in that flash of white light. But when that hardware powerhouse kicks in, taking those two pictures and blending them perfectly, you get this, a perfectly clear, completely readable plate. That is the power of a real hardware engine over a cheap software trick. It is literally the difference between having evidence and just having a useless, flashy video. So, problem solved, right? We've got HDR, we've conquered the light. Well, not so fast. Because even when you get the lighting perfect, there's another enemy lurking in your footage. It's called digital noise. It's something that can take a shot that should be clear and just turn it into a weird, fuzzy painting. What is this digital noise? How do the absolute best cameras out there fight it? That's what we're going to break down in our next explainer. Thanks for joining me.